Well, welcome back to another episode of Money Making Mamas. I'm Nancy Wallace Lobbs. I'm one of the founders, and I'm joined by,
Kelsey Leica.
and we're so glad that you're here. If this is your first episode, we are a mother daughter duo. We launched Money Making Mamas to help moms learn how to make money in real estate investing. And our podcast is all about business and networking and relationships. And we
Yeah,
just cover whatever we want to talk about that day.
whatever we feel like.
So, if this is your first time here, thank you and welcome. And if you would just hit that subscribe button, follow. I like to say that in the beginning because I forget at the end. So,
Always.
because we always have so much fun talking. So,
Mhm.
okay, Kelsey, I know you're burning to talk about this new chapter in you and your husband's lives. So, share with the viewers what you're going to talk about today.
Okay. For our Dallas people, you know that it's been raining a ton and we're just like in that springtime. Obviously, okay, so the reason why I started Money Making Mama is because I wanted to quit my job. We couldn't live our life just on one income. I started investing in real estate and that was able to give me back that income that I needed. And so Zach and I each have our own hobbies. I've brought it up before. I like to embroider. I like to bake, like things like that. And so
Your
I'm pretty
hobbies don't,
crafty.
yeah, your hobbies don't really cost a lot of money.
79-cent thread. And like
Just saying.
just saying. My husband, my lovely, lovely husband, he is very much opposite end. Like he has got some quite bright, like fishing is a big hobby of his, like where, it's not necessarily the
Lures.
lures, whatever. But one day he was like, "Oh, I need a new, I don't know, fish finder thing," and I was like,
It's
"What?"
$134.
No, it's not. I know. Anyways, so we've always joked that I've got the very minimal, like, yes, okay, they're more crafty, maybe more grandma, whatever, old school grandma, hobbies, but he's got the quite expensive ones. And so I was like, you know what, Zach? So a long time ago, he used to, when he was, I think before he went to the Marines, he was a pool boy. And he always jokes about how much he just loved that pool boy job and just, or sorry, I say pool boy, but like,
Pool person.
yeah, he was he cleaned
He
pools.
clean pools. Yeah.
Yeah, not sorry. I don't know why pool boy just popped in my head. But anyways, so he just really enjoyed it because he kind of was on his own schedule. He got to be out in the sun, like things like that. He just enjoyed doing it. And so I don't know, maybe a year back we had talked about, he had kind of joked about having just a little side business cleaning pools. And then but when you start like to break down that and getting all the equipment, I mean it's not too bad, but still it didn't really make that much sense. And really, it's only the summer. And so then, quite recently, he just brought up that he thought he wanted to kind of do something again for his expensive hobbies. So he just put a little thing out on our Facebook page that he was going to start trimming trees. Well, lo and behold, a lot of people are looking to get their trees trimmed, which is awesome. And so he's been doing this as a side gig solely for the purpose of like just for his fun money. That's what he calls it. Which, like, at the end of the day, it's his time. Like, if that's what he wants to do, that's what, as you know. And it's been cool, kind of just to see. Like, he actually has been enjoying it a lot because, one way he put himself out there on our Facebook page, but then another way is that he will just be out there trimming a tree, and the neighbor will come out and be like, "Hey, can you trim mine too?" And that's half of his jobs. And he's been saying that this is actually like really fulfilling because it's like a job that physically you start something and like you make it look better at the end, and it's just very like fulfilling in that way. So he's like wanting to launch this whole thing. So if you're in the Frisco area, my husband started trimming trees. But we were talking about, okay, well, how could you scale this, and how could you kind of go make it bigger? And he was talking about how he wanted to expand his horizon and ultimately his leads. And so I was like, oh, well, hey, like that's kind of what we've been doing. And so I thought that would be a great conversation to talk about today of leads in general for your business. And this isn't necessarily like real estate investment leads, it's leads for everyone. So like,
Yeah, we're going to talk about some tools that you can
yeah.
use, and I am going to refer back to some real estate investing because we kind of stumbled upon some of these tools
Mhm.
as we were growing our
But
business and what I use too.
but this episode, so that's what we're gonna talk about is
Leads
some
and
leads,
marketing.
leads and marketing. And this isn't, I mean, I think this can be applied to anyone.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
why don't you kick it off?
All right. Well, I'm going to kick it off by referring, I always talk about them, but SCORE. and I actually went to a mastermind this past weekend and learned about some AI tools because I think AI is a huge part of lead generation. So
Yeah.
lead generation meaning you need to get qualified prospects that want to buy your product or service, right? Whether it's candles, embroidery,
Mhm.
shirts, or whatever. And so I learned about so everybody probably knows about Chat GPT, and the only
And
way
there's like
Chat,
Grok and Gemini. Like there's
yeah,
multiple out
but then
there.
there's Otter and there's Claude AI. I
Mhm.
never heard of Claude before,
Mhm.
so I actually tried it. Claude's supposed to be more human-y. I don't know. I think it all depends on the prompts you use, how you
Mhm.
tell it. And so I was listening to a webinar about uh, prospects being the
Oh my
lead.
gosh. Okay,
Okay,
don't mind our dog today, but he just like somehow chucked the bone up onto my laptop. Okay.
yeah,
Anyways,
he's
keep
chewing on his
going.
bone. This is Murray. Yeah.
As long as
Okay.
he doesn't bark. Anyways, don't mind the
Yeah,
pup.
he'll be up and down if you're watching this.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I learned about and then I learned about gamma. You can drop a basically an outline of a presentation and within seconds it'll create this very nice PowerPoint presentation for you. There's
Mhm.
just so many avenues to use AI
Yeah.
and people should really look at that because it saves you a boatload of time when you're writing content for social media or you're looking for feedback
Yeah.
for okay how can I we did one for a campaign that you and I are doing about we gave it parameters and it spit out a what do you want to call it? An outline of what we should do for the next 30 days.
Yeah, and I am going to preface really quick, just from the social media side. There is like, yes, AI is great, it's fantastic. But we've said this before, it's a rough draft.
Yes.
So even like I just want to put like a little asterisk on all of this before we get in, like to this, but like AI tools, you should always take it as like a grain, not grain of salt, but
A guide,
a guide, yes. And it's a
not
rough
the
draft.
not
So
the actual because it still should be your voice.
it should. And so, like, it can, I mean, you could tell it to do all these things and whatnot, but at the end of the day, like, you should ultimately be taking, like, if it spits out a caption for you, you should still be tailoring it towards you, and that should be still be your words. So I just wanted to
Yes, I know.
say that really quick.
Yes. So I think, the main thing about lead generation is you have to know who you're trying to generate.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just take, I don't know, I'm going to pick on candles, right? Or bread making or,
Yeah.
Um, so let's just say that you have to figure out who your audience, who
Mm-hmm.
is going to buy that.
Yeah.
Is it? And you need to be as specific as possible. So you need to say, so you have to do a little market research,
Right.
right? Like who buys candles? I'm not a big candle person. You are though. You love
Mm-hmm.
to buy candles. So is that an
Can I just make a plug really
yeah,
quick?
make a plug.
Have you heard of these candle warmers that you just put, it's like a light bulb over, it's a food kitchen, and basically a same concept. Food kitchen light bulb over this. I feel like it's almost like candle hacking. So, okay, have you seen it at
I
our
have not. I
house?
don't know what this is.
Okay, it like looks like a little lamp and it's got a little, I don't know, like little, I don't want to say hot plate because the plate is not hot. But anyways, you set the candle there and you don't burn the wick. You never burn the wick, and the bulb heats up the wax, so it doesn't
Oh, I saw that on your
evaporate or anything like that. And so I feel like it's candle hacking because okay, I'm a little ashamed to say that we did purchase a candle for like $50. It is the best candle I've ever smelled in my whole entire life. And then we got this like $15 thing on Amazon that's like this lamp, and we've haven't, I mean, it's lasted so long because we've
Okay,
never burnt the wick.
so if you're a candle maker, okay, so this would be like competition.
Yes,
So
I
you
know.
would
So
have
I
to
probably didn't
create, yeah,
help
no,
the
but this
candle.
is all good
Hmm.
because, there's always a better widget, right?
Yeah.
So part of lead generation is finding out who is your target audience.
Hmm.
And then once you figure out your target audience, so you can have the best product, but if you're marketing to the wrong group of
Right.
people, you're never going to sell anything.
Right.
So you have, and this is how you can use ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever to help you. But you do have to, the first thing well, let me just back up.
Yeah,
You
I was
have
gonna
to
say,
do a
isn't there
business
research?
plan
Oh,
first. I
yeah.
mean, a marketing plan. And I'm not saying it has to be 70 pages,
Hmm.
one page. You just got to have a plan.
Yeah.
Then once you have a plan, then you got to do a little market research. Now you can go on Google. I've given hacks on how to go on Google, and I'll just give it again where you can go in and say who buys candles, and then you look at all the results drop that into ChatGPT and it'll do an analysis for you, right?
Mhm.
Um, where you're located at. Is it cold? Is it like we lived in Phoenix, right? And then when it's 115, the last thing you do is feel like, burning a candle,
Mhm.
right?
Now again, go back to my candle warmer. It doesn't heat up.
It doesn't heat up. Yeah. So I think, maybe candle making is not what we should be focusing on. But
Regardless, whatever
one
your
of the
business
things
is.
that I found was, so we're going to talk a lot about tools. So there's lead generation, and then there's like marketing, through social media. And it's really hard. And you and I have talked about this multiple times of how it's so hard to get seen on social
It
media.
is.
It really is hard
You have to have the
because,
right people.
yeah, you have to have and you don't have to have a ton of, like, we don't have a ton of following, right? But we make sales because we target, right?
Well, and it took a long time and it's ever changing. So I think that's another thing too. As you're going through this, because how many times have we had to change? Not necessarily like I feel like it has been
Refining,
nice. Yeah, it's been
refining.
refining, but like we have changed our marketing plan multiple times based off of what's trending too
Yes.
when it comes to social media.
Yes. And also because we sell services. Mostly we sell services, but we have a few digital products,
Right.
right? So depending on what we're selling will change. But I found a really cool tool the other day that helps. So we talked about, I think I kind of blurted out, I'm not a techie person. And we've hired a couple people to do our website. And then I met with one of the score mentors and we're really delving into some analytics on our
Mhm.
website. Oh my gosh. So I found out that we had the wrong Google Analytic number on our website. So hello. And we just got that fixed. So we had a month's worth of data, which was good. However, there's a tool, it's free. It's an app called Microsoft Clarity. You can just download it, it's totally free. And what this tool does is amazing
Mhm.
because Google Analytics will kind of tell you the traffic that came, where they came from. It'll give you demographics and all that. What Microsoft Clarity does is it tells you the customer journey on your website.
Mhm.
So we had to redo our website again
Mhm.
because, and I didn't hire anybody. I did it myself
Yeah.
because what happened was I met with this guy. So we had a month's worth of data, and that's not like tons, but I mean
It's something to go off
it's
of.
something to go off of. It was
Mhm.
a baseline for us. But what we found was our website, although people went to it and there's a heat map in
Mhm.
Microsoft Clarity, so they were like really like honed in on our first messaging, and as soon as they scrolled down, it went green, which is bad.
Which,
So
yeah,
red is
explain
good.
explain what a heat map is for
So
people
the
that might
heat
not
map
know.
is like what is hot,
Mhm.
basically, what people are like, oh, wow, this is
What
cool.
they're spending time
What they're
on.
spending time on. So the first part of our website, they were spending a lot of time on, which was good. That was the good part. The bad part was the more they scrolled down to like our testimonials and blah blah blah, and then they might at the end of it, like our FAQ, that was red again. But like things like you would think like, oh, people want to know about. They don't want to. They didn't care about our testimonials because people buy from who they know, like, and trust,
Right.
right? And testimonials, ours are not made up, but they can be made up. And I think
For sure.
people kind of psychologically think that.
Well, and I think with AI now too.
Yeah, so you can make up anything. So we're like, okay, well, we dropped those way to the bottom. And what we did is I ended up rewording some of what based on this customer journey that was, and it records it. The thing is that you can look on, like I can click on, so you got the heat map that shows you like, okay, people are going here and how long they're spending. But then it records every time somebody goes on there and you can literally see where they're clicking and where the mouse goes. And I mean, it was amazing. And maybe a lot of people are smarter than me, might have already known
I
about
mean, I
this.
feel like for
I'd never
someone,
heard of this
I
before.
think I've heard of Microsoft Clarity before, but I've never actually like delved into it or knew about it until you
Or how
told me
you
about
could
it.
use it.
Right.
And so what we did is, and then he told me that and then there's a report that you can get about your speed load of your website. Because, on a mobile device or desk, and also Google Analytics will tell you like, okay, people, 80% of people are doing it on desktop, 20% are doing it on mobile. But You can also get a report that tells you how fast your speed load is.
Mhm.
So ours in certain areas of our website is very slow. So that's not good because then people get
Bored,
distracted.
yeah.
But then, so you do have to hire somebody that has to do with SEO, blah, blah, blah. But he said if you're going to change the website, don't hire someone to change that part of the speed load because until you find out through the heat map what the client journey is. Because if I change something, let's say I hired you and you said, okay, I'm going to fix your speed load, but then I went in and changed some of the things of the website that could affect the speed load again. So he said it's better to wait and get the clarity as far as like, okay, people are spending X number of time here. They
Yeah.
like this part of your website. They don't like this part. And that's really what it tells you. And I'm just going to say this because how does that even make sense with your leads? Because if you're driving traffic to your website, because when people look you up, they're going to go to a website, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't know, which we didn't know because we didn't know about this, people could care less about your social media proof of concept or whatever, and you are offering products, which was happening to us because our products that we were offering, the digital freebies that we have, like nobody was going there because they were dropping off before they even got there. So
Right.
we moved it up. And
Mhm.
so it can help you have more clarity, if you will, on how to attract
Yeah.
people. And the customer journey is like they come to your website and did they buy? And what's the steps in between?
So you've been doing coaching for a while, just different variations, obviously, but in your timeline, obviously you started out a couple years ago, more than a couple years ago. I don't know if I'm ever allowed to say actual timestamps with you because you always like to. But let's just say before social media was super like heavy on your sales, so we're talking about people going to the website, but do you feel like majority of the leads come from social media?
I do not.
No? Okay.
I think that people, because they only do business with people you like, know, and trust, and they don't know you from social media because with AI and you don't know if that person's real, right? And
Mhm.
especially in the real estate investing space, there's a lot of shady folks,
Yeah.
right? There's a lot of people that have been ripped off. So you have to figure out a way to kind of rise above all of that. And so the way I've done it is that I'm an author. I've done tons of public speaking. I'm
Mhm.
out there. Like I am I hope I'm perceived as being genuine because I do
Right.
what I say and I teach that. So I think
Well,
that
and I've always known and like seen you as someone that like wants to help first.
yeah.
And like I've seen you, because even I've questioned, I've like seen you help when like maybe a little too much or like a little too, you know what I
Yeah, and
mean?
that's probably one of the things that I had to learn. We talked about boundaries or whatever, is that I had to learn like, okay, I need to start getting paid for this,
Mhm.
right? But because I want people to succeed and I'm very
Right.
passionate about, it's been good for us and I want other people to benefit from
Right.
that. So I think like as the customer journey, and I'll be the first to admit I'm not a great marketer. Now I'm
Mhm.
getting better.
You are.
I'm getting better. And one of the things that I do know is that if you're going to have a business, you can't do it by yourself. You have to
Mhm.
have collaborations, you have to have partnerships,
Yeah.
but you have to be someone that brings value. So
Mhm.
we're getting ready to do a training. And I reached out to some folks that I've known for a long time. And I said, hey, I want you to be a part of this.
Yeah.
And so, because they're going to become a part of it, then number one, it gives it more credibility
Yep.
with their audience, but also with my audience. It's like, oh, okay, well, this person's been around for a long time.
Right.
So, learning how to partner with people is also a great way to grow your business.
Mhm.
When you're a solo entrepreneur, that's what it means. And let's just go back to the candle making person, even though they have a lot of competition, And I met this lady, I think I talked about her before, where she had Mommy and Me candles or something like that. And she had a new take on aromatherapy and candles and whatnot.
Right.
And so she had a niche. So I
Right.
think when you have a niche, so real estate investing, that's really broad, but I have a niche because I help families they've, lost a loved one, and I teach not only investors how to find and work with those families, but I teach real estate agents as well. That's not something that, every real estate investor does. So I think you have to kind of not just know your customer, but you have to niche it down because we could say moms, right?
Yeah.
And we do actually, you and I, we have two separate customers. We have moms that are like more in your age bracket with youngsters, but
Yeah.
we also have moms in my age bracket that are um, empty nesters,
Yep.
so so we have messaging for both of those groups.
Yeah. So talking about, us and you know what I find so funny, because when we started Ignite the Wealth, for those that know about Ignite the Wealth, we were like this huge umbrella. Like I literally think of like the rainbow colored like big ass umbrella. We had business consulting, we had social media marketing, and we had real estate investing, because like that's ultimately what we brought to the table, right? Like
Right.
I had the social media, you had the real estate investing, both of us had the business, and we just wanted to help everyone. We just wanted to be everyone's. But then people would be like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah, they did not get that.
And that was a learning lesson for us,
Yeah.
because we were like,
Because we thought, oh my gosh, Ignite the Wealth,
"Oh my
everybody will be
gosh,
like on fire with that. We were so wrong.
so wrong." Like we had this like good intention and whatnot, and like what yeah. So I think it's funny that we talk about our audience, because I mean, for me, yes, I really do enjoy social media, but at the time it was like, well, this is way too much. Like I can't
And we
hold.
had clients. I mean, we got clients
Yeah, we
right
had
away.
clients. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, and it obviously was
But it was,
something that was beneficial, but for me personally in that time I couldn't handle.
and it was so segmented because we had real estate investing, we had
Yes.
clients and it was too much. It was
Well,
overload.
and at that time is when I was doing my first deal. So we didn't really know how lucrative it would be for me and how beneficial real estate investing would be for me with all the time giving back. And so that's why we made the switch, was
Yes.
because, you know, I think when I made the decision of like, hey, I'm not going to do the social media, but the real estate investing, like that's like, let's do that. Let's
Yeah.
focus
And
on
can I
that.
just say this too? Because sometimes entrepreneurs will hang on to an idea,
Yeah.
like that. We hung on to it for about, I don't know, 4 months, at the
Yeah.
most, 4 or 5 months. And we were like, we were making money, but it was so disorganized
Yeah.
and
Oh,
our
then that time we
messaging.
had the affiliate marketing too.
Oh, yeah. So we had a lot of stuff going on. And what we learned was we had to let go of it because it
Mhm.
wasn't working for us
Yeah.
as it wasn't a smooth business model.
Right.
And so then it was like, okay, we have to do this. And so we were so, what's the word I'm looking for?
Disorganized,
Disorganized. Yeah,
discombobulated.
discombobulated. Thank you. And
But
so I think we said, okay, this isn't working. And it
right.
was causing a lot of conflict with us.
A lot of issues. And a lot of stress, unnecessary stress. So anyways, once we figured out that and we let go of some ideas and then focused on the real estate investing, and we are like, no, we want to help moms, because ultimately, like, yes, like it was me that kind of like brought all this to fruition, but also to my mom friends that were like, hey, like this is something that I want to learn. And so once we found out our audience, and then we started really like diving into things, I feel like we got our messaging. I mean, I do feel like our messaging is kind of, I mean, it changes every once in a while, right? Because of just with the trends of time, and like, I recently we had to change it because a lot of people think it's not a good time to invest because of the high interest rates, when that's not true. It's a great time to invest. Um but anyways, so I think that we've had to use a lot of the tools and the analytics. So let's talk about that. We've found our niche market, like we found like who we want to help, but then let's talk about like the tools and how we use
Yes,
that
the
to.
analytics. So for me was a challenge because I
Mhm.
am so not a techie person. And let me just give a little back. So when I have a tech person, and I'm married to a computer geek, right? So when I have a tech something happen with my computer, if I can't fix it like in the next 2 seconds, that is like my
Nightmare.
breaking point. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's just caused me a lot of frustration and stress. So, anyway, so I had to really embrace analytics. She's laughing because I always say this. I'm not like, we go to a networking event and Kelsey's with me and they want to give me a bling card. I'm like, okay, you need to talk to her because I lose it.
Well, I
And they,
laugh because we always joke about the apple doesn't fall for the tree. And again, episodes back, we talked about this mic situation. Do you remember me like sitting there saying I had this like warning, warning, warning over
yeah.
like,
So,
so I
okay.
just had that visual.
So, but once you get into the mindset that analytics are your friend,
Mhm.
so um
And
I have
understanding how to read data.
read data, yeah, and also get the right data because there's a lot of data out there, and some of it, who cares,
Yeah.
right? So we had to get the right data.
And what it means. Sorry, there's like, because there's
Oh
a
yeah,
lot.
yeah.
So don't
So
be afraid to like Google. Like, I recently had to look up, I think Instagram changed their thing to like say like impressions, which to my knowledge, LinkedIn was the only one doing that. And now Instagram is. And I was like, what does that mean? So don't be afraid to Google
yeah.
stuff.
So we and then you also like again, I go back to SCORE and I got somebody that can help me like understand what I should be looking at.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about Microsoft Clarity, Google Analytics, but the other thing that helped me was like, okay, this really because once you start tracking your social media with your sales, oh my gosh, you have a money making lead generation when you see what people are really responding
Yeah.
to. And I'm just going to give an example that I just learned by listening to a webinar from SCORE. So it was about, lead generation. And the lady gave an example of a insurance guy. And he was calling people up, getting his prospects, right? And saying, hey, I I want to save you money. But the thing is, the insurance products he was selling were more expensive than any of his competitors. So he had a lot of prospect calls, but he had no sales because his message didn't jive with what he was selling.
Right.
So he, he changed it to say things like, I'd like the opportunity to show you
Mm-hmm.
how I can save your business from catastrophic disaster.
Mm.
Wouldn't you want to listen to that?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that he has the cheapest item that he's selling, but what happened was he was changing the mindset of not only himself because he couldn't compete with other people, the other
Right.
companies. So, so when you are looking for leads, you got to drill down
Right.
and you have to say, okay, you know what, this isn't working. And I guess what I was going to say when we were talking about Ignite the Wealth, I've known people who have I see it on Facebook all the time. They're struggling, they're struggling, they're struggling. They're not making any money. And the question I want to ask them, if I had a conversation, is what are you doing differently? Because
Right.
there's that old saying, you can do the same thing over and over, and you're never going to get any results. It's kind of like insane.
Mm-hmm.
But some people get stubborn and
Yeah.
they think, oh, I know, I know. No, because we thought we knew and we didn't. And fortunately, you have to pivot,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to let the analytics kind of show you where to pivot. Because we've had some reels that have done really, really well,
Yeah.
and we've had some that are like, "Ugh, nobody's even looked at."
Yeah, but then also too, I would say don't get so hung up on that because that's one thing that I had an issue with. And that could be a whole other segment we talk about is just social media in general. But don't if your reels or Instagram, if it only gets 2 likes or 200 views or 50 views or 1,000 views, don't get hung up on that because like yes, you do need to you do need to post consistently. You need to like to get seen. But we've had so we've been posting 2 to 3 times a day every single day. And I used to get so stressed out because I always thought there had to be like trending audio and like all this stuff. And again, this is a topic we could talk about. But I used to get so stressed out because it only hit 250 views. But we and like I would spend time on my messaging and trying to make it like have this perfect hook and like the perfect visual and the perfect trending audio, and I'd be spending 20 to 30 minutes on one reel for a 4 to 5 second reel. And it wasn't until recently that we had kind of this business meeting and we were like, hey, like let's just post.
Let's just be
We'll just post
consistent.
our instead of trying to meet Instagram's criteria, let's meet our audience's criteria. And I will say we've had more followers just from doing that. Our views are still like minimal, like they're still in the like they range from like 300 to 500, sometimes getting up to like 1,500 max. But we've had more likes, we've had more comments, we've had Murray. We're not editing this part out.
Okay, okay, come on, eat your bone, eat your bone. And we've had more sales.
And we've had more sales all because we didn't get so tied up on social media.
We did. And so the thing was is that we shifted. And so I was saying, like we were talking earlier about using AI, so that helps us with time ways. And then we got a scheduler. And so that frees up both Kelsey and I's time. And the thing is, now that we're doing that, we've got like, we do have more followers. We have more, I think, visuality, if that's a word.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we got more sales from it, and
Yeah.
we reduced our time. Even though we're posting more, we actually reduced your time because you're the
Yeah.
social media person. So I think,
Well,
and
and let's just talk about too, we've had the opportunity to go look at like so I think a lot of people think that we just are wanting to coach, but we want to invest in our own deals too.
yes,
And that's been another thing as well. Like I was so tied up with momming, you know, 14 hours a day and then doing social media stuff like every single night and on top of it trying to have my own life. And we would never get to go look at investment deals. And now we've been able to have that time back too.
yes,
So it's really about using your tools, like really investigating. You don't need like a big software, like don't be afraid to do like the 14-day trials here and there. You do have to invest in tools because I think that that ultimately
yeah,
is what's
because you
going to
want to
help.
automate it. Because I think that's the big thing. So we
Yeah.
switched over to Vista Social,
Mm-hmm.
and I hadn't. I actually, what I
I
did
actually
is,
really love it.
yeah, we've had other social media. We've hired social media.
We've paid a lot.
We've paid a lot of money for social media, and so we said, you know what? And I found them by, I don't know, I'm I'll go to YouTube a lot, but I ended up just finding them, and they didn't really have a lot of I don't know. There's a lot of other social media platforms that were up there, but I was like, okay, well, let's check them out. And I love their analytics.
I love them.
They're so easy, and I love the fact that you can schedule multiple platforms, and it will say, okay, well, like for example, on X. I mean, we don't really go XX, but we go on X, and it'll say your text is too long, and when you go in and schedule, you can actually customize it. You can do the whole post, and then it'll say, oh, X won't post this, and you can go in and customize just that one post.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Well,
And I love,
another key feature that I love is it'll show you based off of your engagement, your audience engagement, what time is the best time
yeah,
to
the
post for
optimal
that
time.
one.
Yeah. So we
Um,
should be getting I don't know, something. Hey, social Vista Social.
yeah.
We just we'll tag you or
Yeah,
whatever. But
yeah.
that's been a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think just I love Gary V. I follow him. If you guys have never listened to him, he does cuss a lot, but he has some really good methods, if you will, about how to use social media. But his
And
big thing
generate
is,
some leads.
yeah, his big thing is being consistent. And I think at the end of the day, and we talked about this on another episode, is that, no matter what your business is, real estate investing, candle making, embroidery, bread baking, opening up a franchise, is that you have to be consistent and you have to show up and you have to be authentic.
Mm-hmm. So maybe let's talk about outside of social media.
Mhm.
How else are we generating
Oh, I love
leads?
that. Okay, so I had a friend of mine. Hi, Caroline. She's out of Florida. Actually, I'm gonna give her a shout out. She's a absolute top producing agent in the Jacksonville area. Anyway, so she called me, and she does probate leads, and I do pre-probate. So we were talking about networking. She called me. She goes, and she's like a top notch real estate agent. And she's like, Nancy, I just started networking. I've never really networked. I hate it. What's your ROI on networking? Return on investment. She goes, how many deals have you gotten? How many coaching clients have you gotten from networking? And I said, you know what? Zero. And she goes, what? Why am I shaking it? Because I guess there's a phrase about shaking hands and making cash. I said, you know what? Now, let me back up. I said, I've gotten referrals because at the end of the day, it's about who you like, know, and trust.
And I think it's about networking. I feel like networking is more about opening doors.
Yes.
And it's not necessarily like, oh, I'm going to shake this person's hand and automatic deal.
Right.
I mean, obviously that's amazing if you can go to a networking event and get all of a sudden get 3 clients. Cool, awesome, love that for you. Let me know what you're doing. But I think that it's more networking is more about we've talked about it in our last episode, building relationships and like again asking the question of how you can serve each other and instead of this give and take, but then also too, I think it just opens doors
Yes, I do
because
too.
you never know who you're going to
So
meet.
most of our clients come from people knowing who we are, having conversations, referrals. And I would say that that's the majority because I might meet somebody, and this has happened. Some of our clients, I met them more than a year ago,
Yeah.
and they've just watched and they're like, oh, and finally there's something that happens in their life, right? Because
Yes.
real estate investing takes a little bit of time, a little bit of commitment, not tons of money, but they
Yeah.
watch. And so I think, and then they have to have something in their life that is the catalyst for them to come into what our services
Yeah.
offer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And a lot of times I'll do, like if I'm in a conference and I'm speaking, like I do a lot on short-term rentals and, property management. And so if I have something that I'm offering, then of course that'll sell after I'm like speaking or whatnot. So I think you have to have a stage, if you will.
So we talked about this in our networking episode, which if you haven't listened to that one, that's a couple episodes back. And really we just touch on like how to go about networking and kind of and mom like I feel like for years and years and years, like you would especially when I was like in college, like I would call you up at like I don't or you'd call me at like 5:30. Be like, "Oh, I'm headed to this networking event." And it seemed like you guys, I mean, before COVID, really I felt like you guys were going all the time. And so anyways, we have an episode just solely based on like networking and like key tips
And we
for
used to
that.
have a lot of lunch and learns and
But I was going to say too that for me and like in that episode we talked about putting yourself out there. And so another great way to get leads is actually joining, especially moms, joining mom groups. So like, moms of, for moms of Dallas, moms of McKinney, moms of, things like that. And actually one of the people that came to us was from me just posting like a, hey, this is what I think someone had posted that they needed some extra income. And I literally just commented. I hardly ever comment on that stuff. I need to do it a little bit more. But I was like, I'm just going to comment on this. And so I commented, hey, my name's Kelsey. My mom and I, own Money Making Mamas. All I did was tag it. And I said, we help moms gain financial freedom while without sacrificing time with their families. Message me if you're interested. I had 15 women message, hey, send me more. Can you send me more? So, and I had like conversations. And, so just putting yourself out there when you're
mhm.
talking to someone new, don't be afraid to say, this is my business. Stand on that. Like, have confidence of like, I make candles. Like, you know what I mean? I know that there's big time candle companies, but you never know like what person is going to buy from you. So don't
Well,
be
and also a
afraid
lot
to
of people
say,
are really into supporting local,
yes. And so don't be
so
afraid if you're meeting
mhm.
someone at the grocery store. Oh, yeah, I make can't like somehow figure out how you're going to slide that into the conversation. So don't be afraid to put yourself out there in that sense.
Yes, I agree with that. I
And I
agree
think
with
that
that.
helps generate some
Mhm.
leads too.
Mhm. I do too. Yeah, I think that so as far as like where our clients come from, it usually is, networking.
Hmm.
It's because I was doing you and I were out doing some public speaking. So we were out on the other night and we actually got a couple clients from
Hmm.
that just because we were out there and we're real. I think when people know you're real and you could show them, oh yeah, I invest in such and such area or whatever. That's the other thing. Where are you vested, if you
Hmm.
will? So if you sell candles, are you like online?
Yeah.
Another great place to get leads is just so we do this, we're Amazon resellers or sellers. So I'm just going to talk about our Amazon store.
Oh, yeah.
So we don't really have a store. We have links.
Yeah.
So because I talk on short-term rentals and, like things to decorate your property or the types of towels and
Hmm.
sheets and everything, you can actually go on Amazon and be what they call a reseller.
Yeah.
And so what that means is that you can like post about, so we do this occasionally. We'll say, okay, well, we use these sheets that are, short-term rentals and here's a link. Now, you don't pay any more for that, but if you click on my link and buy the sheets, then I make a little something from that, right?
Yep.
Um, so it's the same way like we talked about winning deals and heels. I have a nonprofit where some of the money from the sale of the book from Amazon goes to it goes directly to, it doesn't even come to me. It goes directly to them. So you can set that up as well.
Yeah.
So there's I know Etsy, has a store. So well, let's just talk about, so my husband Brian, he's quite ingenious when it comes to
Oh
designing
my
and
gosh, it's
building
so funny
furniture.
that we're talking about. I started this episode with Zach's
Oh
furniture
yeah,
style.
yeah, yeah. So, okay, my husband Brian, he can build just about anything,
Well,
right?
he built our deck.
Yeah, he
I
built a
mean, he
deck.
did he did the plan. Zach did the manual
Yeah,
labor,
like
but
the overhead, the yeah. And so
sorry, deck, yeah, patio.
we wanted to incorporate bunk beds into one of our short-term rentals. And so we went online and when we looked first we looked at how much they cost and they're like, "Okay, you could build this." And we needed them to be super sturdy. They need to be built in the wall. So he after doing some research, he just drew up the plans and then he got the materials list and he
Mm-hmm.
built some really nice bunk beds, right? I mean, they're not going anywhere.
My kids love them.
Yeah. So I said you should put those plans on Etsy because people were selling bunk bed plans for like
Hmm.
$10. I go, let's put those on Etsy. He's like, oh, I don't want to do that. I was like, people will buy them. Now he hasn't done it yet, but it's just the fact that he could if he wanted to.
Yeah.
And he's built those, what do you call those? Adirondack chairs. He's built those. He's built you a patio cover. I mean, he's built furniture. He's built for our lake house. He's built quite a few things. You know,
Hmm.
he's bought. So you might have, and he likes building furniture. So
Hmm.
he could literally start his own little Amazon store, do some social media. So you never know what people want. Like he
Yeah.
found a need, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that I have to admire Zach because I mean, it's like one of those like tree trimming. It's I don't want to do that. I don't know if you want to do that. Bobs doesn't want to do it. But like someone and so you never know who is like I mean, Zach was like, yeah, I don't mind. Like, I'll do it. And it's, very I mean, it's satisfying for him because, and I remember he couldn't sleep the other night. He was up at like 4 a.m. and I got up at like 5. And I went into his office and he's like watching tree videos and he's like actually invested in it. And like, I mean, I wouldn't say this is like his new hobby or anything, but it's something he enjoys doing. And like, you never know, like, if you have an inkling of like, well, maybe I just want to put myself out there about this, just do it because you never know where it's going to lead.
Right,
And
exactly.
so
So
it's
I'm
so,
gonna like one idea I have, and I could probably be really successful at it, but I just hate it, is a cleaning service for short-term
mm,
rentals because it's so hard to have good cleaners.
yeah,
And I know how to manage people, but I absolutely hate cleaning.
yeah.
So I can't imagine that I would be super successful at that. I mean, I would in the fact that if I already had the cleaners and blah blah blah, but my heart's not into it because I know it needs to be done. I just don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you have a business, then like sometimes you might have to do it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, I
Yep.
mean, there might be a day when, nobody shows up and I have to go and clean, and I would hate that. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I don't want to do that.
That's fair. Well, any other tips on lead generation or
I think on lead generation, it kind of goes back to that thing we talked about. Like, you have to be consistent and you have to do follow ups because the follow up is in the money.
mm-hmm.
So, one of the things I think that is probably, we're in the age of like, we don't really communicate with people. Like, we did talk about networking, but, picking up the phone and just making calls to people, it's not the funnest thing to do, but you know what? If you can make yourself just start out small, do 10 calls a week,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I don't even like that, right?
Right.
But I usually set aside like Mondays or Friday mornings. It's usually the days that I have the most time to call people. And I just pick up the phone and I call people. And sometimes I just call people that I haven't talked to in a long time and just to reconnect and let
Yeah.
them know what I'm doing. Am I going to get a sale? Probably not,
Yeah.
but you never know that they might know somebody that needs the service that I'm providing.
Right.
So I did that today. It's Friday. I made a lot of calls this morning. And then the other place to do some lead generation is DMs, direct
Mm-hmm.
messaging
Yeah.
on LinkedIn and Facebook, but with people that you know,
Yeah.
because it's really hard to like, always keep up with everybody. So I met a lady that I host a webinar every month for this company that I deal with pre-probates. And we connected a few months ago, but I hadn't talked to her for a while. I mean, we actually had a phone call. And so I sent her a DM. Hey, I'm doing this training. I didn't know if I'm asking her permission. Can I send her the information? So I think if you look at lead generation as like, hey, I have this to sell, but say, you know what, I have this. What problem does it solve? do I have your permission to send you more information?
Yeah.
That goes a long way with people.
Yeah, because I think one topic, like, especially for me, I struggled with was like, I didn't want to say, like, especially when in our social media posts, I didn't want to sound too salesy. Whereas, like, what do you have to say about that?
So I think you have to tell people you have something for sale and you have to ask for the sale.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to do it a little bit more direct. It's like, and you have to make it like, okay, why do they need it?
Right.
Right? Why do you need it? But why do you need it now?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because when you are in business, I mean, we could sit here all day and say, yeah, I love real estate investing and I love candle making and I love embroidery. But at the end of the day, we all have to make money.
Right.
If you don't ask for the sale, you're not going to get the sale.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you and we differed on that, right? And it was like, okay, well, let's, okay, our dogs, remember
Murray.
Murray, come get your bone.
Kyla's like, leave me alone. If you remember from, or if you heard from last episode, she's wearing a cone.
Yeah.
Can't be
Because she had
wounded.
like
She
the
doesn't want
emergency
anything.
situation. So,
So Murray's trying to over there. Sorry, didn't mean to derail it, but
but yeah, I think that you have to ask for the sale and then you have to follow up. So it's not good enough to just, say, hey, last night I was on, and you have to be, so this is kind of a funny thing about me. I'm a very early morning person. And so, it's not unusual for me to be working at 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning, but it is unusual for me to like text you or DM you because you might think I'm a weirdo, right? Or maybe not. Maybe you're an early morning person. So I do have to, when I'm doing my lead generation, I have to be careful about what it is I'm doing and what time I'm doing
yeah.
it. But I
And
went
there is a
through.
way that you can schedule your texts, which I
Yes,
don't know. I don't know if you know that.
I did not know that you can schedule text. So this
Yeah,
is okay.
so
Talk about this.
I mean, I don't know the details of it, but I do remember iPhone because I think there was something about like sending a happy birthday message. Like you didn't want to forget, so you'd like schedule that and whatever, so we'd have to look into it. But I think there's a way that you can actually schedule
Well, I do
text.
know, like, so I'll do
So you could do
follow.
that 2 a.m., but to go out at
Yeah, I
8 a.m.
do like scheduling emails to
Yeah.
go out, right? So I think that, if I was to say to somebody about lead generation, I think you have to like, okay, number one, you got to get people in your pipeline. So you have
Yeah.
to meet people, you have to offer them something. So even if it's like candle making, or candles, what do you have that's going to get people interested in the type of candle you have?
Yep.
So you can use email, you can use phone calls, you can use, I don't really like text messaging. Some people do. Um, you can use mailers. I mean, we don't really talk about mailers. Like we get a lot of our deals. Like
Mm.
I would say 85% of our deals come from our direct mail marketing,
Yeah.
right? So it depends on what it is you're selling, who you're selling it to, and then there's all kinds of ways to sell to people or to generate leads.
Right. Right. Definitely. No, I think that's good. I think that's good.
Yeah.
So,
So,
any other?
I think I've covered just about everything I know about lead generation and
Yeah.
and it's ever evolving,
It
right?
is. I think, and also too, I think that even you just talked about it now, but your like pipeline, you just did this, but make sure you're cleaning it up every once in a while too. Like if you have people that just,
Oh yeah, let's talk about that. Can we talk about that?
yeah,
Because my feelings got hurt.
yeah.
So okay, so I had an email list, and I was, if you don't
Yours was built up over years. It's not
years.
money making mom. I mean,
Yeah, and it was like I took it from this person and this email, and I put it all together and I put it into one CRM. And so then I was like, okay, my email open rate is actually pretty good. It's above 35%, 40% sometimes, depending on what I'm sending out. But I was like, okay, why do I have all of these leads, but nobody's like, they're like dead. And so I actually had to call support for my CRM, and because all these people unsubscribed. And it was like a good 400, right? And
mhm,
so I started going, I just started scrolling. I should have just because she said, well, just delete them all. And I was like, okay, but I wanted to like see if I could see a trend. And I thought, oh, these are going to be people. No, they were people I knew. And we
yeah,
were talking last week about support. They were friends,
yep,
family. And for a couple days, I was butthurt
I know
about
you
it.
were. I know you were.
I
But
was
then what
like,
did you do? You said let them.
you know
Let
what?
them
Let them, because then I
unsubscribe.
said they're just taking up space in my CRM because they're not even
Exactly.
my ideal client. I'm
Exactly.
never going to sell anything to them. So what do I care?
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So they're not going to know about my latest podcast because I do send out an email or a blog post or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, at first I was like really hurt about it because I was like, oh, that person unsubscribed and oh, that person unsubscribed. But then yes, I went back to Mel Robbins' book and I was like, okay, let them. But also, I had to be honest with myself and, like, you know what? They're not my ideal clients. So the messaging that I have doesn't even relate to them.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think this was a really good episode. And if anybody has any, questions about lead generation or anything, as always, please, please, please reach out. On the opposite end of that, if you did like this and you appreciate it, please like, comment, let us know your feedback. If
And
you
share. I like
and
to
share
share.
if you think of anybody else that has a small business that they need some help with their leads, please share this. But as always, subscribe, like, comment, follow us on all the social medias. It's a huge support for us and we really appreciate it. So, Mom, anything else?
Nope, we have a busy month. We're going to be at a lot of different conferences this month, so I'm
Mhm.
excited. So
Yeah.
that's also how we're going to do lead generation.
Yes, we are.
Can I just say one more thing about that? So public speaking
Oh,
is a
yeah.
great way to generate leads. A lot of people don't like to public speak, but if you can, and it doesn't even have to be a huge audience. I mean, you can check with your local
Right.
chamber, check with your local high school. You know,
Right.
start out with the kids. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? But get out in front of people.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, thanks.
All right. Thank you. Love you.
Love you. Bye.